The morning sun cast long shadows across the Hendricks farm as Martha stepped onto the front porch, coffee mug in hand. She had been living here for 3 months now, helping her elderly Uncle Tom manage the property after his hip surgery. The arrangement worked well for both of them. Tom got the assistance he needed, and Martha found the peace she craved after her messy divorce. As she surveyed the familiar landscape of rolling pastures and weathered barns, something caught her eye near the old oak tree by the pond. A figure was crouched low, moving in an odd, jerky manner across the grass. Martha squinted, trying to make sense of what she was seeing. The figure appeared to be a young woman, maybe in her early 20s, with long dark hair that hung loose around her shoulders. But her behavior was unlike anything Martha had ever witnessed. The woman was on all fours, sniffing the ground intently, her head tilting from side to side in quick, bird-like movements. Martha set down her coffee and walked closer, careful not to startle the stranger. As she approached, she could see the woman more clearly. She wore a simple brown dress that had seen better days, and her feet were bare and dirty. Her movements were fluid and purposeful, as if she were following some invisible trail across the grass. When Martha was about 20 feet away, the woman suddenly froze. Her head snapped up, and she looked directly at Martha with wide, alert eyes. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then, to Martha's amazement, the woman began to wag her entire body, shifting her weight from side to side in what could only be described as tail-wagging behavior. Martha felt her heart skip a beat. This was no ordinary encounter. The woman remained in her crouched position, watching Martha with an expression of eager anticipation. Her tongue darted out slightly, and she panted softly, as if she had just finished running. Martha realized with growing astonishment that this young woman genuinely believed she was a dog. Unsure of how to proceed, Martha decided to follow her instincts. She had always been good with animals, and something told her that approaching this situation with the same patience and gentleness she would show a nervous dog might be the right approach. Martha crouched down to make herself less intimidating and extended her hand slowly. The woman's eyes followed the movement intently, and after a moment of hesitation, she crawled forward on her hands and knees. When she reached Martha, she pressed her nose against Martha's palm and sniffed deeply. The contact sent a shiver through Martha. The woman's skin was warm and soft, and her breathing was rapid but steady. Up close, Martha could see that despite her unusual behavior, the woman appeared healthy and well cared for. Her hair was clean, and though her dress was worn, it was not dirty or torn. Martha spoke in the same gentle tone she used with frightened animals. Her voice was soft and reassuring as she said hello and asked if the woman was lost. The response was not words, but a series of soft whimpering sounds that seemed to indicate distress. The woman pressed closer to Martha, seeking comfort in the way a scared dog might seek protection from a trusted human. Martha found herself naturally falling into the role of caregiver, gently stroking the woman's hair and speaking in soothing tones. After several minutes of this gentle interaction, Martha heard footsteps approaching from behind. She turned to see her Uncle Tom walking toward them, his cane tapping against the ground with each step. His weathered face showed concern and recognition. Tom explained that this was Elena, and she belonged to the Kowalski family who lived about 2 miles down the road. Elena had been born with severe developmental disabilities, and over the years, she had somehow developed the unshakable belief that she was a dog. Her family had tried everything to help her understand her human identity, but Elena remained convinced of her canine nature. The Kowalski family had learned to work with Elena's condition rather than fight against it. They had created a safe environment where she could express her perceived identity while still receiving the care she needed. Elena was generally content and happy, but she had a tendency to wander off, following scents or investigating interesting sounds just as a curious dog might do. Tom had encountered Elena several times over the years when she had wandered onto his property. He knew her family well and always made sure she was safely returned home. He explained that Elena was harmless and actually quite sweet, but her condition made it impossible for her to understand conventional social interactions. As Tom spoke, Elena remained close to Martha, occasionally nuzzling against her arm or hand. Martha found herself deeply moved by the young woman's obvious need for connection and comfort. There was something pure and innocent about Elena's behavior that touched Martha's heart in an unexpected way. Tom suggested they should contact the Kowalski family to let them know Elena was safe. He explained that they probably did not even know she was missing yet, as Elena was skilled at slipping away unnoticed. Martha agreed, but she found herself reluctant to see Elena leave so soon. While Tom went inside to make the phone call, Martha remained with Elena by the pond. The young woman seemed fascinated by the ducks that were swimming in the shallow water. She watched them intently, her head tilting and turning to follow their movements. Occasionally, she would make soft whimpering sounds, as if she wanted to join them in the water. Martha observed Elena's behavior with growing fascination. Every movement, every gesture, every sound Elena made was consistent with canine behavior. She sniffed everything around her, marked interesting scents by returning to them repeatedly, and showed the kind of alert awareness that Martha associated with intelligent dogs. When a butterfly landed on a nearby flower, Elena's entire body tensed with predatory focus. She crept forward slowly, her movements controlled and precise, exactly like a dog stalking prey. When the butterfly flew away, Elena's shoulders sagged with disappointment, and she let out a small whine of frustration. Martha found herself wondering about Elena's inner world. What did it feel like to live with such a complete and unwavering belief about one's identity? Was Elena happy in her perceived reality, or was there some part of her that struggled with the disconnect between her beliefs and the world around her? Tom returned from the house with news that he had spoken with Elena's mother, Mrs. Kowalski. She was grateful that Elena was safe and would be coming to collect her shortly. Tom mentioned that Mrs. Kowalski had sounded tired, and Martha could only imagine the constant worry and vigilance required to care for someone like Elena. As they waited for Elena's family to arrive, Martha continued to interact with the young woman. She discovered that Elena responded well to the same commands and gestures that worked with dogs. When Martha patted her leg and called Elena over, she came immediately. When Martha held up her hand in a stop gesture, Elena froze in place. Most remarkably, Elena seemed to understand the concept of fetch. When Martha threw a small stick across the grass, Elena bounded after it on all fours with obvious joy. She brought the stick back and dropped it at Martha's feet, then sat back on her heels with an expectant expression, waiting for Martha to throw it again. The game of fetch revealed another aspect of Elena's condition that Martha found both heartbreaking and beautiful. Elena's joy in the simple activity was pure and complete. She threw herself into the game with total enthusiasm, her face lighting up with happiness each time Martha threw the stick. Martha realized that despite the tragedy of Elena's condition, there was something to be learned from her complete acceptance of her perceived identity. Elena lived without the self-doubt and internal conflict that plagued most people. She knew exactly who she believed herself to be, and she lived that truth without reservation or apology. When a car pulled into the farmyard, Elena's head immediately turned toward the sound. Her body language changed instantly, becoming alert and slightly anxious. Martha could see recognition in Elena's eyes, followed by what appeared to be guilt, as if she knew she had done something wrong by wandering away. Mrs. Kowalski emerged from the car, a woman in her 50s with graying hair and kind but tired eyes. She approached slowly, speaking to Elena in a gentle voice. Elena crawled toward her mother, her movements subdued and apologetic. Mrs. Kowalski thanked Martha and Tom profusely for taking care of Elena. She explained that Elena had slipped out early that morning while the family was busy with breakfast preparations. Despite their best efforts to keep Elena safe and contained, she had an uncanny ability to find ways to explore the world beyond their property. Martha learned more about Elena's history during the conversation with her mother. Elena had been a normal child until the age of 4, when a severe illness had caused brain damage that affected her cognitive development. The belief that she was a dog had emerged gradually over the following years, and no amount of therapy or intervention had been able to change her conviction. Mrs. Kowalski spoke with obvious love and dedication about her daughter, but Martha could hear the exhaustion in her voice. Caring for Elena required constant attention and creativity. The family had to dog-proof their home in ways that most people could never imagine, while still trying to provide Elena with a rich and stimulating environment. As Mrs. Kowalski prepared to take Elena home, the young woman turned back toward Martha with an expression of longing. She whimpered softly and took a few steps in Martha's direction before her mother gently called her back. Martha felt a surprising pang of loss as she watched Elena reluctantly follow her mother to the car. In the short time they had spent together, Martha had felt a connection with Elena that was unlike anything she had experienced before. There was something about Elena's complete authenticity and lack of pretense that had touched Martha deeply. After Elena and her mother drove away, Martha found herself thinking about the encounter throughout the rest of the day. She could not shake the image of Elena's joyful face during their game of fetch, or the trusting way Elena had pressed against her for comfort. That evening, Martha brought up the subject with her Uncle Tom over dinner. She asked him more about the Kowalski family and Elena's condition. Tom explained that the family had struggled for years to find the right balance between accepting Elena's reality and trying to help her function in the human world. Tom mentioned that Mrs. Kowalski had once told him that Elena seemed happiest when she was allowed to express her perceived identity freely. Attempts to force her to behave in more conventionally human ways only caused distress and anxiety. The family had learned that love sometimes meant accepting what they could not change. Martha found herself drawn to this philosophy. In her own life, she had spent so much energy trying to force situations and people to be different than they were. Her marriage had failed partly because she had been unable to accept her husband's fundamental nature, just as he had been unable to accept hers. Over the following days, Martha could not stop thinking about Elena. She found herself hoping that the young woman would wander onto their property again, though she knew it was probably better for Elena's safety if she stayed close to home. A week later, Martha's wish was granted. She was working in the vegetable garden when she heard a familiar whimpering sound. She looked up to see Elena approaching cautiously from the direction of the road. This time, Elena seemed more confident and purposeful in her movements. Elena went directly to Martha and pressed her nose against Martha's hand in greeting. Martha was struck by how natural and comfortable this interaction felt. She had never experienced such immediate and uncomplicated connection with another being. Martha decided to make the most of Elena's visit. She led Elena on a tour of the farm, allowing her to investigate and explore to her heart's content. Elena was fascinated by everything she encountered. She spent long minutes sniffing around the chicken coop, watching the birds with intense concentration. She investigated the barn, following scent trails that only she could detect. In the pasture, Elena encountered the farm's horses for the first time. Martha watched nervously as Elena approached the large animals, but her concern proved unnecessary. The horses seemed to accept Elena's presence without alarm, perhaps recognizing something genuine and non-threatening in her behavior. Elena spent nearly an hour in the pasture, sometimes following the horses as they grazed, sometimes simply lying in the grass watching them. Martha was struck by how peaceful and content Elena appeared in this natural setting. When it came time to contact Elena's family, Martha found herself reluctant to make the call. She enjoyed Elena's company and felt that Elena was genuinely happy on the farm. However, she knew that Elena's family would be worried, and keeping Elena longer would be irresponsible. Mrs. Kowalski arrived within 30 minutes of Martha's call. This time, she stayed longer to chat, and Martha learned more about the challenges of caring for Elena. Mrs. Kowalski mentioned that Elena had been more restless than usual lately, and she wondered if Elena was seeking something that the family was unable to provide. Martha suggested that perhaps Elena would benefit from more time outdoors and more opportunity to explore natural environments. Mrs. Kowalski agreed that this might be helpful, but explained that the family's small property and busy schedules made it difficult to provide Elena with the kind of outdoor experiences she seemed to crave. An idea began to form in Martha's mind. She suggested that Elena might be welcome to visit the farm regularly, under supervision, if her family thought it would be beneficial. Martha explained that she enjoyed Elena's company and would be happy to provide a safe environment where Elena could express her natural behaviors. Mrs. Kowalski was intrigued by the suggestion but cautious about imposing on Martha's kindness. Martha assured her that the arrangement would be mutually beneficial. She had grown fond of Elena and genuinely wanted to help. After some discussion, they agreed to try a trial arrangement. Elena would visit the farm twice a week for a few hours, giving her the opportunity to explore and exercise while providing her family with some respite from constant supervision. The arrangement proved successful beyond anyone's expectations. Elena thrived during her visits to the farm, and her behavior at home became calmer and more settled. Martha found that caring for Elena brought a sense of purpose and joy to her own life that she had not experienced in years. During their time together, Martha learned to communicate with Elena in ways that honored her perceived identity while still keeping her safe. She developed a series of commands and signals that Elena understood and responded to willingly. Their relationship was built on mutual respect and genuine affection. Martha also discovered that Elena had remarkable intuitive abilities. She seemed to sense Martha's moods and emotions with uncanny accuracy, offering comfort when Martha was sad and sharing excitement when Martha was happy. Elena's emotional intelligence was far more sophisticated than her cognitive limitations might suggest. As the weeks passed, Martha began to see Elena not as a person with a disability, but as a unique individual with her own valid way of experiencing the world. Elena's complete authenticity and lack of social pretense were refreshing in a world full of complicated human relationships and hidden agendas. The arrangement also benefited Martha's Uncle Tom, who enjoyed watching Elena's antics and found her presence amusing and heartwarming. Tom often commented that Elena brought life and energy to the farm in a way that reminded him of his younger days when the property had been full of children and animals. Martha realized that her relationship with Elena had taught her important lessons about acceptance, authenticity, and the many different ways of being human. Elena lived her truth completely and without apology, finding joy in simple pleasures and offering love without conditions or expectations. In caring for Elena, Martha had found a purpose that filled the emptiness left by her failed marriage and uncertain future. She had also discovered that sometimes the most meaningful connections come from the most unexpected sources, and that love takes many forms beyond conventional human relationships. As autumn approached and Martha's time on the farm drew to a close, she knew that her life had been permanently changed by her relationship with Elena. She had learned to see the world through different eyes and to value authenticity over conformity. The young woman whom everyone had initially seen as simply disabled had revealed herself to be a teacher and a gift, showing those around her what it meant to live with complete honesty and unwavering faith in one's own truth. Regardless of how that truth might appear to others,